Welcome to Tuesday's episode of John McEntyre Show Live. I'm John McEntyre, and today we have a show we're going to be talking about your debt and statute of limitation. It was actually a topic that came up me working with one of the clients, and so I thought there will be a very good topic to discuss on today's show. Um, Hope you're having a good day. Today is November the 12th, 2024. So we're chugging along here, almost a month and a half, and this year, 2024, will be coming to an end. And so you know the routine. Let's cover some wallet wins here. Um, First wallet win is I created my Christmas list with a dollar amount for each gift in the budget. Okay, so let me get that right. I created a Christmas list with a dollar amount for each gift in my budget. Okay. So that is a wallet win. That's smart. Being up front here, taking care of business right off the gate, um, planning not to overspend. Wallet win number two, I got a loan consolidation to lower my total interest by 5%. So yes, that is a wallet win. Loan consolidations can be very smart when you're pulling all those loans together. You have all of these high interest debts and everything. You want to pull them together. It can lower, it can lower your time frame and lower the interest rate if done correctly. So that is a smart wallet win. And number three is a big one. I inherited some land and I sold it to pay off all of my debts but the house. Yes, that was very smart to do. Um, Very beneficial to the budget, not knowing the age and everything. But anytime you can pay off all of those debts, the cars and everything, that can be very freeing. I know a lot of people say that they feel less stressed whenever it's like that. So there we go. We have three good wallet wins today. And I want you to share your wallet wins. Hashtag wallet win, put it in the comment there, and we will make sure and celebrate with you. All right. So today I said I wanted to talk about your debt and statute of limitations. Like I said, it came up talking to someone as we was looking over their debts and everything, and um, they wanted to make sure that they had the finances in order with the debt. And so as I taught, I've dealt with debt quite a bit before, up until this time. And so it's just a few things I wanted to really cover. Not a lot, because is number one, the statute of limitations is very state specific. And so this particular client, they're in North Carolina. So a lot of things that we were talking about that I've learned, it's basically North Carolina. So you have to go with, you know, follow the rules of your state wherever you live. Um, but generally, statute of limitations, basically, it is a state law that sets the deadline for the amount of time that parties must initiate legal proceedings against someone for unpaid debt, which is to say, you don't have ever, forever, in certain circumstances, to take someone to court for a debt that they owe. Um, it is to prevent creditors from taking consumers to court, long after debt has been discarded or disappeared, just to keep things from hanging out there too long. Now, it doesn't free you from debt, from the debt that you owe, but it does um, limit the amount of time to where you can be taken to court for it in certain situations. And that's what is so important here. Um, you have to you have to consider statute of limitations as a consumer, because it's not a get out of jail free card. Uh, you still owe the debt, and the collection agencies, they do have the right to pursue attempts for you to pay it. But if it's beyond the statute of limitations, they just can't take you to court. They can't sue you for it. They can pester you as long as they want to. um, and there are some things that you could do to protect yourself from that. Just to make sure that you don't put yourself back on the hook for certain debts. Now, there are certain types of debts, and with each type of debt, there comes a certain amount of time in the statute of limitation. For instance, you have open-ended debt. That's loans without a set end date, like a credit card or a line of credit. And in North Carolina, like I say, I'm keeping this in North Carolina, that's 3 years. You have statute of limitation 3 years from last payment or last communication. You haven't communicated, so 3 years passed, statute of limitations has ended. Um, Written contracts, which are printed agreements between a lender and borrower that states the amount of loan, interest rate, fees, and payment terms, those are 3 years. They have a 3 year statute of limitation. Oral agreements, which are spoken agreements, they're sort of hard to prove in court, but they are agreements. If they are spoken, it can be a contract. It can be a binding contract. Those are 3 years. That's one of the hardest one to prove, though. Um, and last but not least, promissory notes. Those are 5 years. It's a written promise by a borrower to pay a specific amount to a lender by a specific date. Um, this promissory note, that's 5 years. So that's the one with the longest amount of time in statute of limitations. Now, there are some loans and debts that don't have statute of limitations. Things like student loans, tax debts, alimony, child support, and some others. They don't have a statute of limitations. Anytime uh, you can be, and we all know tax debts. IRS, they're not going to let you off. Tax collectors, they're not going to let you off the hook for anything. There are some of the other student loans also. They can be forgiven, but that's not within statute of limitations. And like I say, consumer debt, it does expire, 3 to 6 years, um, and so you have to keep that in mind. Now, there are some things, for instance, you can always tell people to make sure they don't do if they've decided that uh, they're not going to pay it or whatever. They're just going to ignore it. There are some things that can reset that clock, the statute of limitations clock. And, for instance, you see a debt and you've gone a long period of time, you make a payment, you've acknowledged the debt. And acknowledging a debt in writing, uh, short of making an agreement, if you make the agreement, that resets the clock. Let me make sure that let me set that up before we even talk about making a new payment. Acknowledging a debt will, in writing, most of the time, in an agreement, can actually reset the clock. So, for instance, it's a 3 year statute of limitations. You go 2 years and 9 months, and you acknowledge the debt. You get a phone call or something like that. You acknowledge the debt. You've reset the clock. If you say, yes, I do know that I owe this debt, this, that, and the other, and I do want to pay it back, you've reset the clock. Just by that language, you've reset the clock. The clock started over. Now you have 3 more years of, they can take you to court in a 3 year period, within that 3 year period again. So you make sure you don't want to acknowledge, because that's the way of resetting the clock. Making a new payment, like I was saying before, making a new payment is actually acknowledging that you do have the debt, and the clock is reset. Uh, Making changes to the debt, like negotiating or doing debt settlement, that actually resets the clock. So you have to make sure, before, if you're going to, that you are in financial situation to take care of this debt before you do any types of communication and making agreements, because it resets the clock. Making a charge. Say, for instance, you have a credit card, you haven't made payments on it, and you're saying, okay, well, it's going to be, I'm going to allow statute of limitations to come in so they can at least sue me. If you make a payment, you've reset the clock, and that also goes with lines of credit. So that's why I always say, before you wake these things up, make sure you're going to take care of them. Don't wake them up. Either sometimes you can do it on purpose, or you can accidentally wake them up. And once they are awake, the clock starts over. They can step in and they can take you to court, do whatever, which could lead to, uh, wage garnishments, things like that. They could sue you or whatever. So that's what that's basically in a nutshell of handling, the statute of limitations, explaining it, what it is, and some things to do and not to do. Um, but the takeaway is just make sure if you are taking advantage of the statute of limitations, don't do some things that can reset the clock. I'm a big believer if you have debt, pay it. If you did the loan, pay it. And if it's 3 years and it takes you 10 years, at least you paid it. And some people, they may file bankruptcy and get it totally erased, but bankruptcy will only erase certain debts. So you have to make sure. And so I'm saying that to say I gave a quick overview. What you want to do, you want to talk to an attorney in the state, where you live or where the debt is located, because that's where your statute of limitations. Here in North Carolina, it could be 5 years. In another state, it could be 3 years or 2 years, 4 years, or whatever. And so you have to make sure you talk to a consumer protection attorney, or at least talk to someone in the consumer protection area of your state. And so that's it for today. I just wanted to cover that because that was very important. People made some mistakes and woke up some old debts and ended up in court or being sued for something that they could have avoided. So if this information was helpful, subscribe to the channel, share it, tell other friends about the show, everything. Send in your questions, your comments, share your wallet wins. And until tomorrow, same time, same channel, we'll talk.